Hong Kong, Kowloon, March 1971. According to accounts from Hong Kong film industry insiders, a black Mercedes pulled up to an unmarked door on Temple Street. No sign, no number, just a red lantern hanging above the entrance. The kind of place tourists walk past without noticing. The kind of place locals cross the street to avoid. Bruce Lee reportedly stepped out of the back seat. He was wearing a simple black shirt and dark slacks. No bodyguards, no manager, no lawyer. Just Bruce, alone, about to walk into what some claim was a headquarters building connected to the 14K Triad, one of the most powerful organized crime syndicates in Hong Kong. The same organization that allegedly controlled significant portions of the film studios in the city. The same organization that reportedly decided which actors worked and which actors disappeared. The driver, allegedly a low-level associate, looked nervous, according to those familiar with the story. He was told to bring Bruce Lee to this location. He was not told why. In that world, people who got called to buildings like this usually came out very different than when they went in. Sometimes they didn't come out at all. Bruce reportedly walked to the door without hesitation. Knocked twice. The door opened immediately. A man in his 40s, described as having a scarred face and wearing an expensive suit, gestured Bruce inside. No words, no greeting, just a nod toward a narrow staircase leading down. Bruce descended. The air got thicker. Cigarette smoke, incense. The smell of money and fear mixed together. At the bottom of the stairs, a hallway. Dim lighting. Red wallpaper with gold dragons. 3 doors on each side. Only one was open, at the very end. Light spilled out into the hallway. Bruce walked toward it. Inside the room, 3 men sat at a round table according to the accounts. They were older, 50s and 60s, dressed in traditional Chinese silk shirts. Expensive watches. Gold rings. These were not street enforcers. These were decision-makers. The men who allegedly controlled territories, who collected percentages from businesses in Kowloon, who decided whether a film got made or a studio burned down. The man in the center was known in the underworld simply as Wong. These are not his real name, but the name used in accounts of this meeting. He reportedly ran entertainment operations for the organization. Some claim that every actor, every director, every producer who wanted to work in Hong Kong cinema had to answer to figures like Wong. He had allegedly ended careers with a phone call. He had made fortunes with a handshake. And he had ordered violence against anyone who disrespected the organization. Wong gestured to an empty chair across from them. Bruce sat. The door closed behind him. The scarred man who led him down stood in front of it, arms crossed. Making sure Bruce understood, there was only one way out of this room, and it required Wong's permission. Wong lit a cigarette, took a long drag, exhaled slowly, studied Bruce with the expression of a man evaluating livestock. Finally, according to accounts, he spoke in Cantonese, identifying Bruce as someone who went to America and came back because Hollywood didn't want him. Bruce didn't react, didn't defend himself, just waited. In negotiations, the person who speaks first often loses. Bruce learned this years ago from his father, a Cantonese opera star who understood the politics of performance and power. Wong continued, reminding Bruce that he wanted to make movies in Hong Kong, using studios, crews, and distribution networks that the organization controlled. Everything Bruce needed to make films, they controlled. He made sure Bruce understood this reality. It wasn't a question, it was a statement of fact, and according to industry insiders, it was largely true. In 1971, Hong Kong's film industry operated on a system everyone understood but nobody discussed publicly. Criminal organizations had allegedly invested in every major studio. They reportedly laundered money through film production. They controlled union labor. They decided which films got theater distribution and which ones vanished. Actors who refused to cooperate found themselves unable to work. Directors who didn't pay respect found their sets vandalized, their equipment stolen, their investors suddenly pulling funding. This was the world Bruce had returned to after years in America. After the Green Hornet got canceled, after Hollywood executives told him American audiences would never accept a Chinese leading man, after he tried and failed to get his own show made, after he realized that in America he would always be limited to sidekick roles and exotic stereotypes. He came back to Hong Kong because here, at least, he could be the star. But first, he had to survive this room. Bruce spoke, his voice reportedly calm, almost conversational. He acknowledged that he understood how Hong Kong worked, that he understood the organization's control over the industry. That was why he was there, he said, to show respect. Wong's expression didn't change. The other two men remained silent. They were letting Wong run this meeting. But Bruce noticed small details. The man on the left had scarred knuckles. Former street fighter, now management. The man on the right wore reading glasses on a chain around his neck. The accountant, the one who tracked money and percentages. Every operation had both, muscle and mathematics. Wong tapped ash into a jade tray. According to accounts of the meeting, he explained that respect was demonstrated through action, not words. Every actor who worked in Hong Kong allegedly paid a percentage. 10% of their salary went to the organization. It was positioned as a partnership. They protected actors, made sure their films got distributed, made sure theaters showed their movies, made sure audiences came. In return, actors shared their success. A fair arrangement, Wong reportedly claimed. He paused. Let the numbers sink in. 10% of every dollar Bruce earned would go to the organization. For his entire career, every film, every endorsement, every public appearance. 10%. Forever or no career at all. Bruce didn't flinch, didn't argue about the percentage. Instead, he did something Wong didn't expect. He leaned forward slightly, not aggressive, just engaged, present. And he asked a question about what they knew about him, what the organization had learned about Bruce Lee. Wong's eyes narrowed. This wasn't how these meetings usually went. Actors sat, they listened, they agreed, they left. They didn't ask questions. They especially didn't challenge Wong to prove he'd done his research. But Wong was intrigued. He was a man who had run this operation for 15 years by being smarter than everyone in the room. He respected intelligence, so he answered, recounting Bruce's background. Born in San Francisco, grew up in Hong Kong, studied Wing Chun under Ip Man, got into street fights. His family sent him back to America to keep him out of trouble. He taught martial arts in Oakland and Los Angeles. He trained actors. He worked on television. He came back because he failed in America. Now he needed them. Every word was true. Every word was designed to remind Bruce that he was the one asking for something, that he was the one without power in this room, that he came back to Hong Kong not as a conqueror, but as someone who ran out of options. Bruce nodded slowly. He acknowledged everything was accurate, but noted they had left out one important detail. Wong's expression shifted. Curiosity mixed with irritation. What detail? Bruce's voice remained calm, almost friendly. But there was something underneath it now, something that made the scarred man by the door straighten slightly, something that made the accountant put down his teacup. Bruce explained that he came back to Hong Kong by choice, not because he failed. He decided Hollywood wasn't worth compromising who he was. He decided he would rather build something real in Hong Kong than accept their limitations. That wasn't failure, he told them. That was strategy. Wong leaned back, the cigarette burned forgotten in his hand. He told Bruce to continue. And now Bruce did something that would determine whether he walked out of this room with his career intact or with his life permanently complicated. He told Wong the truth. Not the comfortable truth, not the diplomatic truth, the real truth. He acknowledged that the organization controlled the film industry, that they decided who worked and who didn't. These were facts, but he told them what they needed to understand about him. He wasn't just an actor. He was a martial artist with a following, a teacher with students around the world, a philosopher with ideas that resonated beyond cinema. If he couldn't make films in Hong Kong, he would teach. He would write books. He would open schools. He would build his influence outside their system. And when he did, when his reputation grew through other channels, the film industry would come to him. Not because they allowed it, because audiences would demand it. The room went silent. The kind of silence that precedes either violence or respect. The scarred man's hand moved slightly toward his belt. The accountant glanced at Wong, waiting for a signal. Wong himself was completely still. His face revealed nothing. Bruce continued. His tone hadn't changed. Still conversational, still respectful, but absolutely firm. He told them he came to show respect, to propose a partnership that benefited both sides. But he needed them to understand something. He wasn't desperate. He wasn't begging. He was offering them the opportunity to be part of what he was building, because what he was building would happen with or without them. The only question was whether the organization profited from it or watched from outside. For 10 seconds, nobody moved. Wong's cigarette had burned down to the filter. He stubbed it out slowly in the jade tray. Then he looked at the accountant, looked at the enforcer. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. Then Wong looked back at Bruce. He acknowledged that Bruce had confidence, more than most actors who sat in that chair. Most were shaking. Bruce wasn't. That told Wong that Bruce either didn't understand the danger he was in or was very sure of his value. Bruce reportedly responded that he understood the danger perfectly. He also understood his value, and he understood that killing him or blacklisting him would create more problems for them than working with him. Wong asked him to explain. Bruce laid out the logic. If he disappeared or was blocked from working, people would ask why. His students in America would ask. Martial arts schools around the world would ask. And the story that spread wouldn't be that he broke rules or disrespected traditions. The story would be that the organization was afraid of Bruce Lee, that they needed to silence him because they couldn't control him. That would damage their reputation more than 10% of his salary would help it. Wong's expression finally changed. The corner of his mouth moved. Not quite a smile. Something else. Recognition. He was realizing he wasn't dealing with a typical actor. He was dealing with someone who understood leverage. Someone who had thought 3 moves ahead. Someone who came into this room knowing exactly what he would say and how he would say it. Wong pulled out another cigarette. Didn't light it. Just rolled it between his fingers. Thinking. He asked Bruce what he was proposing. Bruce didn't hesitate. He suggested paying 5%, not 10%. In exchange, the organization would get something more valuable than money. They would get association with someone whose reputation was about to explode internationally. When he became famous, and he insisted he would become famous, people would remember that the organization supported him from the beginning. That made them look like kingmakers instead of extractors. That was worth more than the percentage they would be losing. The accountant looked skeptical. The enforcer looked confused. But Wong looked interested, really interested, because Wong understood something the others didn't. In the reputation economy of organized crime, being associated with success is worth more than skimming off failure. Wong repeated the number, 5%, and he asked what guarantees he had that Bruce would actually become this international star he was predicting. Bruce smiled, not arrogantly, just confidently. He told Wong to watch him work, give him one film. If it failed, they would renegotiate. If it succeeded, Wong would have his proof, and he would have locked in a partnership at 5% before everyone else realized what Bruce was worth. Wong lit the cigarette he'd been holding, took a long drag, looked at Bruce through the smoke. He told Bruce he was either the smartest person who had ever sat in that chair, or the most delusional. He hadn't decided which yet. Bruce responded that in 6 months, Wong would know which. Wong stood. The meeting was over. Bruce stood as well. The enforcer opened the door, but before Bruce left, Wong reportedly said one more thing. He agreed to 5% for one film, but made clear that if Bruce disrespected the organization, if he embarrassed them, if he made them look weak, the percentage wouldn't matter anymore. They would have a different kind of conversation. Bruce nodded. He said he understood, and Wong needed to understand that Bruce kept his word. 5%. Partnership. Mutual respect. That was the deal. Wong extended his hand. Bruce shook it. The deal was made, not with a contract, not with lawyers, with a handshake in a room beneath Temple Street where many of Hong Kong's entertainment decisions were allegedly made. Bruce walked back up the stairs, back through the hallway, back out the unmarked door. The driver was still there, smoking, looking nervous. Bruce got in the back seat, said nothing. The car pulled away. 6 months later, The Big Boss premiered in Hong Kong. It broke every box office record. Bruce Lee became the biggest star in Asia overnight. According to accounts, the organization collected their 5%, and they kept collecting it for the next 2 years, through Fist of Fury, through Way of the Dragon, through Enter the Dragon, through films that made Bruce Lee a global phenomenon. And, true to the alleged deal, there were no reports of interference with Bruce's work. No threats, no demands beyond the agreed percentage. Because Wong understood something that night in March 1971, Bruce Lee wasn't just another actor trying to navigate the system. He was someone building something bigger than the system. And the smartest move wasn't to control him. It was to ride the wave he was creating. Years after Bruce's death, according to one account, an elderly figure associated with that world gave a rare interview to a Hong Kong journalist. The journalist asked about Bruce Lee, asked if the rumors about the meeting were true. The man, now retired, now old, allowed himself a small smile. He spoke about how Bruce Lee came into that office and told the truth. "Nobody did that," he said. "Everybody lied. Everybody pretended. Everybody tried to please." But Bruce looked him in the eye and told him exactly what would happen if they worked together, and exactly what would happen if they didn't. He gave them a choice, and he made them respect him for giving them that choice. That was power, the man reflected. Real power. Not fear. Not violence. Truth delivered with absolute confidence. He never forgot that meeting. Never forgot that young man who walked into the most dangerous room in Hong Kong and walked out with exactly what he wanted. The lesson is carved into Hong Kong cinema history. Respect isn't demanded. It's earned. Power isn't about who controls the room. It's about who understands the game deeply enough to rewrite the rules. Bruce Lee didn't beg for permission. He offered partnership. And in doing so, he transformed from someone they could control into someone they chose to support. Somewhere in the archives of Golden Harvest Studios, there are allegedly financial ledgers from 1971 to 1973. Some accounts mention small notations in margins next to Bruce Lee's name. 5%. Partnership rate. The only actor in Hong Kong history who reportedly negotiated down from the standard fee. The only person who walked into that room under Temple Street and walked out having changed the terms. Because Bruce Lee understood something most people never learn. The most dangerous negotiation isn't the one where you have all the power. It's the one where you have none. But act like you understand exactly what the other person needs. And in that room in March 1971, Bruce Lee proved he understood perfectly.